impact of the war on Sierra Leoneans, when you look at the level of harm that was done to civilians, the cutting off of the arms and legs of civilians, it's a very sad thing. And as First Lady, I want to say that I still don't see the connection of how he could be held responsible for those things done in Sierra Leone when they were actually done by Sierra Leonean armed forces. I'm sorry that things happened the way they did in Sierra Leone, but it's hard to be responsible for rape in Liberia and someone gets raped in Sierra Leone. And these are some of the issues, rape and torture, that he was not personally involved with. As a layperson sitting outside and watching the trial, I didn't see that clear indication without a reasonable doubt that this person was involved. I don't think he should be held responsible for problems in Sierra Leone. However, if you talk about the crisis in Liberia, for which he was head of, then that's a different story. Our country has gone through a very difficult process. There is still much left to be done. Our country is still not reconciled. I do not think a war crimes code for Liberia will be the best thing. We are a very small country made up of less than maybe 4 million persons. And the interrelatedness of the families are so tight. If you drag one person to court, the families that are attached, it will just have a ripple effect. Of course, the war didn't come out of the sky. There were shortfalls in previous governments that created a platform that people felt they had no other option, and it escalated in what we had. And whether you were involved fully in arranging the war, whether you sat on the side and say, hey, I'm not a part of what's going on, we've all played a role somehow. And I think we should just leave it where it is and move forward. How do you ensure that whether you live here or whether you live somewhere else, there's safe drinking water and there's electricity and that there are jobs? I think that's where our energies need to be. It can no longer be about the past. I would hate to see a war crimes code brought to Liberia. It will not reconcile us. It will not bring back the past. It will not pay for the destruction of our nation. And it will definitely not put back the fabric of our country that has been destroyed as a result. There are different aspects to all of us. And so when you ask the question, who is Charles Taylor? I guess we must look at it in the different aspects. If you look at him as a father, he loved his children, he wanted the best, and he had a good relationship with them. So you can imagine how distraught they feel. He became the focal point of the Taylor family. He took care of everyone. So we all miss him at different levels in the family. But then people on the other side could say, well, there are plenty of families in Sierra Leone where the fathers and the mothers have been killed as a result of the war. There are families here in Liberia who've lost entire members of their families. And there's no way we can bring it back. As an elder statesman, president of a nation, you will find out that the different segments of our population had a personal relationship with him. So I think he's someone who is loved by the people because of the way he interacted with them. I think he's still very popular in Liberia. The experience wasn't an easy one. I mean, even from the early stages of the war, coming into Liberia and fighting your way and finally becoming president and saying, okay, now I have a chance, only to be disenfranchised and ending up where he is. I think if he's given a chance to come home, that he will spend the rest of his time getting to know his children and his grandchildren and just living a life of peace and maybe being the elder statesman. When people talk about the person with the greatest responsibility, for example, who are those people? I think soldiers and civilians who got caught up in the war didn't have a choice. There are no arms factories on the African continent. Who raised the arms? Who provided the funding that began this process? A lot of them are in Western countries around the world, some here at home, that have now become the darlings of the West, and some of them are not even being questioned on the roles that they play. However, this is where we are. we now have the first African head of state indicted and taken to The Hague, and that will forever remain a part of the Liberian history. If this was something right or fair or equitable, I guess history will judge it.